Hello guys. Thanks for joining the session, and good morning, everyone. Uh, Today we are going to discuss about the TechX. So this is also one of the important protocol that we are using in okay to access the networking devices. Okay. Yesterday we have discussed about the radius, right? So in the same way, TechX will also works. So most probably, if you have 100 users, okay. So if you have 100 users in an you have an company with hundreds of users, okay. So if everyone wants to log into the router, most probably we can use their single usernames and with their with their own credentials, okay. So if you want to provide in such a way, so we have to create every user in the router. So if you have 100 users, you have to create 100 usernames and passwords in the routers, so that we will be we will be getting the access to the router CLI using an SSH or telnet. Okay. So likewise, if you have 100 routers, so if you have 100 routers and all the 100 users want to if you want to provide access to those all 100 routers, so administrator want to create all 100 users in each, okay, in each router. Like if we want to create 100 users in router 1, we want to create 100 users and router 2, and again we want to create 100 users in router 4. Likewise, we want to create in all 100 routers. So that may be burden for the administrator, or that may be risk for the administrator to create the users in all the routers. So to get rid of that and to ease the process, so we are using an ACS servers. Okay. So in these ACS servers, which we will be calling as an access control system or access control system servers. So we are using ACS servers. In this ACS, most probably, okay, we are going to use a concept of AAA, which we have discussed yesterday. So AAA means one is an authentication. First A is for authentication, which tells who you are, and second one will be authorization. So which means what type of commands you have to use in the router and what type of access you have to provide to access, okay, why after log into the router. Okay. So the third A is accounting. So it will log your it will log the user session, okay, at what time the user logged in, and what are the, okay, what type of commands they are going to execute, okay, and what they are doing after logging, and it will be also provide an when the user logout, it will also provide an user logout information. Okay. So most probably these are the three things that we have discussed in AAA. So in the AAA concept, most probably we are using radius and TechX. So yesterday we have already discussed about the radius, right? Today we are generally focusing on TechX. Okay. So TechX, okay, TechX is an terminal access controller access control system. Okay. So this is a full form of TechX, which is terminal access controller access control system, or we can call it as a server as well. Okay. So it is also an security protocol which we are using in okay, AAA, to provide centralized authentication for all the users who wants to gain access to these networking devices. Either it is an router, switch, or firewall. Okay, any networking device. Okay. So what exactly this TechX and what are the features that are available in the TechX, we can discuss now. Okay. So the first thing, this TechX is not an open standard. Okay. TechX is a Cisco proprietary. Okay, so you can use only between the Cisco devices. So if you have a Cisco router and other, if you want to use, okay, these TechX, you must have the Cisco devices, and this was developed by the Cisco only. Okay, so between you can use this TechX between the Cisco devices and Cisco ACS servers. Okay, so you have to use between because it is a Cisco proprietary. So you have to use this between the Cisco devices only. Okay, so and it will use the TCP protocol. Okay, TCP protocol as a transmission. Okay, so TechX will be Radius in the yesterday class. Radius we have discussed about Radius, right? Radius is going to use UDP as a transmission protocol, and TechX is going to use TCP as a transmission protocol. Okay, and it will use an we are talking about TCP, right? So it will be used an port number 49 for all. Okay, authentication, authorization, accounting, for everything it will going to use an TCP port number 49. So as we discuss, okay, as this is an TCP protocol, right? It mostly reliable on the connection methods. Okay, so like once the TCP handshake completes, okay, then only it is going to send an request between the router and the ACS server where the user is going to access, and it will also provide an uh, greater control of your system or control of your network, so that more generally when the user trying to access the routers, so you can send an your user credentials, right? So that mostly go via only the in a secure manner whenever you are using an TechX. Okay, but in in TechX, most probably, so every message will be going in an separate way. Okay, separate way instance. We will be having triple A, right? So first it will be sending an authentication, and after authentication is done, it will send an authorization request. So once the authorization request complete, it will be sending an accounting request. But in the Radius, it should be not like that. Okay, authentication and authorization will be sending in a single message. Once that is completed, then accounting will be happen. Okay, but in the TechX, everything will be in the separate message, like first authentication. Once the authentication successfully done, it will do an authorization, and once the authorization is done, it will send an accounting request. Okay, so most this will be happen in the TechX. So how most generally these TechX works means, so first, yesterday we have discussed in the radius race access request, access challenge, access accept, and access reject. But we will be also having some messages here, but not same like radius. So here we'll be having an router. So this will be having an client here. Sorry, we will be calling the client. We will be not calling the user as a client. So I will tell you who is the client. Okay. So actually yesterday we have discussed about the radius, right? So in the radius also we will be calling whatever the routers that we have configured here, those will be calling as a clients. Okay, clients or network access devices or network access servers. So we will be calling as all these terms. Okay, we'll be calling as a client or network access device or network access servers as well. Okay, so from where you are sending a request, generally whenever we are trying to access the router, so the router will send the message who are you, right? So then again the user is sending the credentials. So most probably we are not maintaining the credentials here, right? So it will be sending an credentials to the external authentication server where we have configured. So here we'll be having an ACS server. In the ACS server, we will be calling the service as TechX. So here this will be calling as a server, and the router which is in between your user and the server will be calling as a client or network access device or network access server. Okay, we'll be calling all these things. Okay, and this is a router where we are configuring the okay all the TechX related information. So this will be an TechX server. So how the how the information, how the access will be given here means, so in the yesterday we have discussed, right? So in the same way it is also sending an okay, first it will be first here the user, okay, in the Windows machine user is trying to SSH to the router one, okay, whatever the IP that we have configured here. So it is going to do an SSH, or we can use telnet as well. Okay, SSH or telnet, we are doing an SSH or telnet to the router one. And once okay the router will be asking for okay your identity means you, if you want to authenticate, the router has to know, right, who are you. So it will send an okay it will ask who are you, then you are sending an credentials here. Okay, so here we are sending an user information. Okay, and this user information contains username, password. Okay, if you are using username and password, it will be contain username and password, or if any having an security certificate, it will contains in the user information. Okay, it will having an security certificate, so that will be sending in an so this message receives the router, and the router will be okay. Here in the router we don't have local usernames configured here, but what we have configured, if you get any authentication request, we have configured in such a way that you have to reach out to the ACS server, okay, which is TechAct server. So what router will do, router will not check in this local okay local database. It will be sending an those credentials, okay, to verify in the server. So once the server receives this username through okay network access device, and it will be okay it will be sending all the information, user information, to the server. Once the server receives all the user information, it is going to check here in the local okay server database. So like how we have created usernames yesterday, so in the same way we are going to create the usernames here as well. And all these usernames will be verified against its server's database. And whatever the username and password we have typed here, so if that username and password is available in the server database, it is sending an success message. Okay, or before sending a success message, if there is any okay we are using a two-factor authentication, right? So it will be sending an continue message here. So continue message, in the continue message it will be asking if there are any okay two-factor authentication, like passwords, tokens, or pins, whatever the two-factor authentication that we have set. It will send an continue message to router, the same continue message will receive the user. Okay, so in order to continue with the authentication, we have to provide the two-factor authentication details. So once you provided those information, that will be okay sending to the router. The router will proceed to send to the TechX, okay, TechX server. So the TechX server will verify all the information, and then it will be sending an okay success message. Okay, so it will be going to send an success message. Once once the success message is received, so from the Okay, from the TechAct server, we are sending an okay success message, which
You will show in EVNG practically this one.
I'm showing in the packet tracer, not EVNG. EVNG we don't have server ACS server available, but I will show you in the packet tracer. Okay, so it will be sending
Okay.
an success message, and once it receives a success message on the router will share this the success message again to the user, and once the user receives success message, it is going to authenticate to the router. Authenticate in sense you will get an access to the router, and you can do whatever you want based upon your privilege levels. Okay, so privilege level instance, if you have a privilege level is set for read only. So if you here in the TechAx server itself, we are going to create. Okay, so what is the privilege level for particular user? So if you in the TechAx server, if you set a privilege level for read only, the user will not, okay, will not able to configure anything on the router. It will just, okay, whatever the configuration that are available, existing configuration, that configuration they can see, or they can only see they can execute only the show commands. Okay, they will be not having any configuration to configure the router. They don't have any permission. So if you have, okay, if we have set a privilege level for read and write, okay, so that will provide an access to the user to configure anything on the router. That depends on our usage, and that we are going to define that in the TechAct server for particular user. Okay, so these are the information that we are going to use here in the that we are sending an information to the TechAct server, and the TechAct server will, based upon the user information against his database, it is going to send, it will be providing an access, or otherwise it is going to send an if the user information is not available. Okay, let's suppose, so I have created a username here. Let's suppose I take an admin, and I'm giving a password tbn at the rate 12345. Okay, I have a username like this and password like this, but I am using a admin, but I'm using an other password which is like this. Okay, so whenever we send an authentication request for the server, so it will be checking against his database, right? So now, but we have here admin, we are typing admin only, so username and matching, but there is an password mismatch. Here we are using abc at the rate 12345, but in the access, okay, TechAct server, we are seeing an password what we have configured is tbn at the rate 123. So here the password is mismatching, right? It will send an reject message. So this reject message will be sent from the server, and once this reject message comes to the router, the router will share that information to the user, and the what user will see means user will see an error message like invalid credentials. Okay, so it will show an invalid credentials, so you have to verify what wrong. Okay, whether it is an username or password, that you have to verify that. Okay, so reject message will be in two ways. Okay, either it may be an invalid credentials, and either maybe an the user act. Okay, it inactive session. Okay, after some time, so you have logged in. Okay, you have logged in, and you have okay, whatever you have done, whatever you want to do on the router, your task is completed, and you left it. Okay, you left the router, okay, without any changes, and the router was idle for long time. So for that ideal activity also, the server will in accounting. Okay, In the accounting, the server will be checking whether anything is doing on the router or not. If that is, if you are not, if you are logged in and if you are not doing for okay long time, so what server will do means server will send and reject message, and that your termination will be okay, your session will be terminated. Okay, the session will be terminated for inactive session. Okay, so it will be logging out. Okay, whatever the if you have logged in with username and password successfully, and once you are done something on the router and you kept the router without making any changes or idle for a long time, so the server, it will be it will be end your session with inactive timeout. Okay, so might be the inactive timeout also we can configure that, that we can configure based upon our okay our choice. So might be you can configure 30 minutes, or you can configure 60 minutes, or you can configure 120 minutes, like that you can configure in the TechAct server. So that if there are no configurations done on the router, or any okay if any changes has not made, or if in not passing any traffic from user through the router while accessing, so it will wait whatever the timeout that we have sent. So with that inactive timeout, the server will send a reject message, and that reject message receives the user mission, and that session will be terminated because of the inactive session. Okay, so that is the one thing we can see here. And rest of the things that we are having here is same as an radius. So do you have any questions here on this part, authentication part? Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Others, any questions?
No, sir.
So these limitations we need to configure in the server or in the router.
In
I
the
mean this
server
session.
only. In the server we can configure everything. What in the router, what we are doing is, if you want to authenticate, so we are directing the router to reach the TechAct server. That's what we are configuring here. And apart from that, nothing we can configure. So we everything we can do on the TechAct server. Whatever the ACS server we are using, that for TechAct or Radius, that server will be taken care.
So even in Radius also we can do the accounting part. We
Yeah,
can
yes,
mention
yes,
this.
yes.
Okay.
Accounting part will be there in Radius and also TechAx as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions?
అన్న ఒక స్మాల్ డౌట్.
Yeah.
సో మీరు నార్మల్ స్టార్ట్ చేసేటప్పుడే యాక్సెస్ చేయటం చెప్పారు కదా.
Oh no.
సో ఇప్పుడు ఇప్పుడు ఎలా అంటే నార్మల్ కంపెనీలో యాక్సెస్ అన్ని మనకి ముందే క్రెడెన్షియల్స్
Hmm.
బై డిఫాల్ట్గా క్రియేట్ చేసి ఇస్తారు కదా.
Oh no.
సో అది ఎలా వర్క్ అవుతుంది, దానికి దీనికి ఏమైనా రిలేటెడ్ ఏమైనా ఉంటుందా అంటే
నీ
టెక్
క్రెడెన్షియల్స్ బై డిఫాల్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేసిస్తారు కాబట్టి అక్కడ నీకు లోకల్ సర్వర్ అయినా ఉండొచ్చు, లేదంటే రౌటర్లో అయినా క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చు, లేదంటే వాళ్ళు ఏదైనా ఇలాంటి రేడియస్ కానీ టెకాక్స్ కానీ యూస్ చేస్తుంటే అందులో అయినా క్రియేట్ చేసి ఇవ్వచ్చు. వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇట్ మే బీ. సో if they are using ACS server, they will create your username and password here, and they will provide that password to you. So using that password only, you are going to access the routers or any other networking device. Got it?
యా ఓకే. యా యా.
Yeah, if we want to, okay, make some difference between what are the difference between radius and TechX means. So if you take radius on one side, so the first one will be radius is open standard, right? And the second one, it is going to use ports 1812 for auth authentication and authorization. So in radius, authentication and authorization will do in a single message, and but accounting will be done in a separate message. Okay, it will be using 1813 port for accounting. Okay, and after that, the third one is mostly you can see it will be using only okay, it will be using on all the devices, not only at Cisco. It is open standard, right? So we can use anywhere. Okay, not only the Cisco devices, you can use any other networking devices, but TechAx is an Cisco proprietary. It will only use in an Cisco devices only. Okay, between Cisco router and Cisco ACS server, and it will not use any other device. Okay, but here in the radius, what it will do means radius will provide security for only user information. Okay, information means username and password, but whatever the other information we are sending, that will not be encrypted. Okay, only the user and password will be encrypted. Okay, so this will be some differences between radius and TechAx, and let me mention the TechAx as well. So in the TechAx, this is one Cisco proprietary, and it is going to use, so it will be an UDP okay, UDP protocol for transmission, and it will use ports 812 for authentication, authorization, and 1813 for accounting. Okay, so it will be used TCP as transmission protocol with port number 49 for everything. Okay, authentication, authorization, and accounting, it will use an port number 49. So mainly it will depend on the okay TCP connection. Okay, and if you are using a TCP, so this TechAx will be unreliable. Okay, reliable in the sense, if any packet loss in between, we can again we can request for whatever the packets lost. Okay, and if you see here, it will encrypt every information. Okay, TechAx will be encrypting every information whatever it is going to share. Okay, so these are some okay these are some general differences between radius and TechAx. Most probably both will be used for accessing the network devices. Okay, and also if you have multiple devices and multiple users, it will be hard for maintaining on a single router, right? We can maintain, okay, but it will be hard for the administrator to configure every username, so on every single networking device. So to avoid that, we are using a single authentication server or single ACS server, where you can create 100 users and you can map all 100 devices to this. Okay, we can connect all the 100 devices to the authentication server. Whenever the user requests for the authentication, the respective router will route that authentication request to the servers. So either you are using Radius or TechX, that will be routed towards those servers, and those servers will be checking the user information against the database, and if the user information is available, so it will be sending an okay uh, success message or accept message. So once the users receive that, so they are going to successfully authenticate with the routers, and they will be doing whatever the uh, whatever the rules that they have given. Okay, so everything will be monitored by the server. Once the authentication is done, everything will be monitored by the server what the user is doing. Okay, so this is what we are using in Radius and TechAxe. So any questions here? So if not, we'll proceed with some lab configuration. Any questions, guys?
So can we create any groups in the server and add all the usernames in it, or do we just need
Groups.
to manually add the usernames one by
Yeah,
one?
we in these ACS servers we don't have provision to create groups here. We need to create the usernames and passwords manually only. Singly, or individual username and password you have to create.
Okay.
So here how will be the topology, right? So we are taking one router and we'll be having one switch. So we'll take two pieces like in the same and the server. Okay, this server will be acting as our ACS server, and this router whatever we are using here, this will be acting as a client or network access server, and this is generally we are using for to connect these devices or our internal clients, or we can call it as an internal user machines to the network access device. So I'm connecting PCs to the switch, and from switch to the router, and the router is connected to my server. Okay, so generally in Cisco Pactor, as you know, all the devices will be turned on by default, but just you have to go and configure the interfaces. Okay, here I have connected switch on gigabit. Okay, gigabit Ethernet 0/0, and here on the other side we have connected 0/1 to the server. So first we can complete all the general things. Okay, so like configuring interfaces. So here enable configuration mode. So interface g 0/0. So IP address 10.10.10.1 with subnet 255.255.255.0, and no shut. Next on other interface gig 0/1, and IP address we'll take other network. Okay, 20.20.20.1 here. Sorry, subnet mask 255.255.255.0, and no shut. Okay, so once it is done, we can configure IP address on our user machines and also the server as well. Okay, so going to configure IP address on PC 0. So go on the desktop IP configuration. You can get from the DHCP, or you can also configure static. If you want to get DHCP, you have to configure you have to enable DHCP server here, and you can configure DHCP pool on the router so that you will get directly from the DHCP. So for now I'm going to configure manually. So on PC0 I have 10.10.10.0, and subnet, the same subnet you have to use, 255.250.0, and the default gateway, which is our router IP, internal LAN interface IP, so which is 10.10.10.1. Okay, so this completes our PC0 configuration, and you can do the same thing on the PC1 as well. Okay, which is 10.10.10.20, and subnet 255.255.250.0, and gateway, so 20.20.20.1. Okay, so this completes this configuration on the user machines as well. And I'm going to configure on the server. So same, you can go on the server desktop IP configuration. You can also configure manually here, 20.20.20.100 with subnet mask. Same, you have to use 255.255.250.0, and default gateway should be, sorry, 255.255.255.250.0, and gateway should be your LAN WAN interface IP, which is connected to the server. This should be a gateway, right? So that IP should be 20.20.20.1. Okay, that's complete our general configuration of interfaces. Now we can configure TechAX related information on the router. So just go and do an exit here. So after that, you can just use an TechAX server and specify the TechAX server. So here host, anything anything that you can give the name. Host will be okay. Here the IP address that we have configured here on the server, which is 20.20.20.100. Okay, and key, you have to mention the key as well. Okay, this is for mainly used for encryption purpose, and also to identify you're getting a request from the legitimate clients or not. Okay, so you can configure key as Cisco 123. Sorry, I think keychain and word. So under the keychain, we can configure key here. Okay, and identifier, you can configure anything, Cisco 123, or I think it has to be a numbers only. Okay, so you can configure from 0 to this number. Okay, not no alphabets here, only you can configure any key here. Let's just configure 123, and you can just send whatever the accept lifetime or send lifetime key string, anything. Okay, set key string here, or nothing we can do. Okay, just we can just exit from here. And next thing what we have to do is, first we have next we have to enable AAA, so which we can use AAA new model. Okay, and after enabling that, we are going to use authentication, AAA authentication. We have AAA authentication, right? Yeah, authentication, and
Login,
yes, login,
default,
default. We'll be
group,
having an group with TechAX Plus,
default.
and you can use local. Okay, you can use a local, and you can mention that. Okay, so we are saying to this router that whenever you get an request from any of the user, we are mentioning that you have to go for the radius server. Sorry, here we are using TechX server, right? So we want to send a request to the TechX server. And after that, what we have to do is we have to set an okay, line VTY 024, and you have to mention login, authentication, default. Okay, whatever the, okay, here what we are mentioning, right, whatever the authentication that we have set here for authentication, whenever we send a request, that we are mentioning here in the line VTY, so that the router will be okay sending the authentication request to the respective TechX server here. Okay, so this ends our configuration on the router. So you can just do the save the configuration. You can see save running config section. You can mention the TechX. Yeah, here we'll be having server, host name, authentication, TechX. So you will be having this configuration. Okay, and after that, after completing of the router configuration, you have to okay set this server as an TechX server. So how you are going to do is here, once you click on the server, you can get multiple options here. So go on the services. Here you will be using an AAA, right? So just click on AAA. So enable the service first. By default, it will be turning off. Okay. So you have to enable and give the client name here. So the client name, whatever the client that you are using. So in this case, we are using a router. So just give the router host name, which is router 0. Client IP, what is the client IP here? In this case, this WAN interface IP, which is 20.20.20.1, and secret key, whatever the secret key that we are using, like 123. So we have set the secret key 123, and here the server type should be radius. Okay, now we are using the radius, right? So it will use an radius, and you have to configure an client in. Okay, once you having all the information here, you can just click on add. Your client information will be added here. Likewise, you can configure multiple. If you have multiple routers here, you can just okay, if you have router 1, you can give the router name, and whatever the router IP that are available that we have connected to the TechX, so you can okay, you can configure here as well. So now, as of now, we have only one router, so we are configuring only one client here. Okay, so if you have multiple clients, you can configure. And user setup, so here we are using a user setup, right? So we are going to configure the username and password. For admin, we are going to use okay, and click on add. The user will be created, and you can just go with any other password. So other username, and you can just mention the password whatever you want. Okay, so I created the 2 users, and I configured a client as well in the TechX server. So it is why it is going with radius. Oh, sorry, we have already created, right? No issues. So we have already created. So TechX server type as a TechX, right? So it will be taking care of that. So once everything is done, now we can go ahead and authenticate from the user PCs. Okay, just go ahead on the command prompt. Just do a telnet to your router. Okay, which is 10.10.10.1. So it is asking for the username, right? So it will do an give the any username that we have created here. So in this server, we have created admin and TB networks. So first I am going to use admin, and what is the password that we have set, that we are going to use here. Okay, so what the password that we have set here? Yeah. So it is showing as login invalid admin. No, it is showing as a login invalid. So let me use TB network, and the password tbnet@1234. So I think there is something issue on the server. So we got an we have typed in okay. I think we have tried for 3 times, right? So after the third unsuccessful attempt, the server will be sending an uh, terminating your okay authentication, because there is something happening between your router and your server. Okay, just try to ping from your router to your server. Yeah, we have an access. We got an ping rate as 100%. So configuration, every configuration is right. Show running configuration section techax. So here we set an host, but we don't have key, right? We have configured key before, right? Mm, Let me check that. So there is key is not available here. It's seeing only the host name on this, but we have to configure key as well. We have keychain key 123, but why it is not taking it? Mm, Just a minute. Config terminal techax server key, yeah, unencrypted clear text shade key. So here we can configure Cisco 123. Mm. So there is a key is not there, so we can also, can we edit this? Mm. Yeah, we have missed the key, but before we configured that is okay, that is a keychain that will not okay work for authentication. So wr router show running config section techax. Yeah, now we got a key here. So let me do an authentication now. So telnet to 10.10.10.1, which is my router, and it is asking for username, right? So admin, and the password is tbn@1234. So now we got an access, right? So now we are logging into the router directly. Okay, and once we send, okay, once we once we type an username and password here, so this request comes from PC0 to the router. So what router will do, it will check whether the user is available locally or whether it has to be send an authentication request to the external server. So we have set an we already configured login authentication default, which is for TechAx server. So what we have configured here, so if we get any authentication request to this router, we have to send that request for to the TechAx server. So that access request will send to the server, and this server will check its database whether this admin and whatever the password that we have okay used here will be available here or not. So it will check here in the user setup. So if the user and the password is correct, it will send a success message to the router, and router will forward that okay forward that success message. Then this user is able to access the router directly from the PCs. So we can also try from this PC as well. So we can try with another telnet 10.10.10.1. So it will be using an username, right? So I'm going to use another user, okay, TB network, and tbnet at the rate 1234. So now we got an access, same thing, okay. So here we are in the router now. So if you want to do anything, you have to do an you have to enable the password for enable on the router, so that you will get an enable option, okay. So here this is a privilege level that we are setting, okay. It will show only the it will be doing only any we cannot enter into the enabling mode or configuration mode. For that you have to set the password in the router, okay. So this is we are we are doing just for just we did a lab for authentication, okay. So this is how we can set up the lab and try to configure things whatever required for authentication on the router, and also the TechAx server, and try to access from the PCs if you are able to log in with the credentials that we have set on the server, okay. So any questions here, or anything that you need to know here? Anything guys? Okay, this is both, okay. This ACS server will use for both Radius and TechX. Whatever the service that you want, you can enable, and you can use as it is. The same thing, okay. Radius and TechX we can use for same authentication purpose, right? So everything looks similar, but what TechX will do, that will be taken care by the TechX server. So what is the port, how the authentication will happen, and after the authentication, so what type of information that user is trying to trying to provide on the router, that will be taken care by the TechX server. If you configure the Radius server, the Radius server will be taken care. But both will be like if you have any other router, okay, not the Cisco router. So here this will be a Cisco router, right? So if you don't have any Cisco router, and if you have any other router, the TechX will not work here. In that case, you have to use a Radius. So if you have a Cisco router and a Cisco ACS server, you can use a TechX as well. For mostly TechX will provide an end-to-end security to your user access. So any questions? Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't have any questions, we can wind up this session here. So we'll provide the configuration, like how we have configured how we have configured the radius. I will provide this in configuration as well in the group. So you can try to configure that in the router, and you can try to authenticate from the user machines. Okay, so just try to execute this lab in the Cisco packet tracer, as we don't have servers available right now in GNS3, so you can do it in the packet tracer for now. Okay, so okay guys, if you don't have any doubts, we can wind up this session here. If you have any doubts, just let me know.
Yeah, Karthik, I have just one question.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in big organizations in enterprise networks,
Hmm.
so we add the Active Directory domain
Mm.
in the server, right? ACS server. So in
Yes,
the
yes.
Active Directory domain, so we add the users in that domain. Is that
Mm.
right? Or
Yes, yes, the same thing.
o-
That is also one type of method that we can use for
okay,
authentication. So if you don't have, okay, if you don't want Redis and TechX, if you want to use Active Directory, you can configure Active Directory in ACS server, and you can use that
okay.
for the authentication purpose. You can use that, yes.
Oh, okay. We will be configuring Active Directory in the ACS server, right?
Yes. Or you can use any Windows servers. We'll be having Windows servers as well. That will also support Active Directory.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the NPS server also I heard. So we use the NPS server in Radius. So
Mm.
what exactly is it? Both are different, or is it a part of Radius?
NPS, I haven't heard about the NPS server, but let me check and I'll get back to you. Okay. I'll
Okay, sure,
verify
sure.
that. I'll get back to you.
Okay, sure, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, guys. We can wind up this session here. So just try to execute these both labs. Okay. Because these both configurations are similar. Okay. It will be complete within half an hour both. So you can verify the things how it goes. Okay. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Have a okay good day and great weekend. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.